Press conference. The game was, obviously, we'll react to it. The big news coming out of the game is Jacoby and Guillory. Let's not bury the lead here. Jacoby and Guillory, Tank, is out for the season, and that is a huge hit. Look, you obviously are going to miss him on the field because of the numbers and because of what was going on with the depth chart at defensive tackle this year. He was the guy, really, going into the season. I hate to lose him inside the locker room in his leadership as much as I hate to lose him on the field. And I hate it for him because it was his senior season and he was set to have a really big year. He was going to play a ton of football. But moreover, he really meant a lot to the everyday of this team, right? In the locker room, the spirit, the morale, one of the good dudes, one of the guys on the team that everybody liked, who wanted to be around, and was a senior, and I think that's where the hit hurts the most when you talk about Guillory. And the numbers are there, and now you're in a situation with Don McKinley where it was what we were talking about earlier this year. You hate to ever go to a freshman and say, "Hey, we have to have you. You have to play." The ideal freshman timeline is just to develop, and when it's time, put him out there. Toviano last year, is my example because it's the most recent and it makes the most sense. When he got out there in game 8, he really looked like he could play. He really looked like he had confidence. He really looked like he was, thinking, I should be out here. And, the scariest situation that you can have for a true freshman is a Jarrett Lee, is a, Brandon Harris type situation. I know that's quarterback, but you throw these guys out there when they're just not ready. And gotcha. you do eternal damage to them. You do damage to them that's just you can never really recuperate. And that's where they are now with Don McKinley because of the injury situation. And, 5-star guy, Louisiana's best defensive tackle. It's, that's now the situation that they're in when you talk about this Guillory situation and him being out.
Yeah, there's going to be a handful of guys that need I think Sean Washington's another guy that they're probably going to want to take a step and kind of answer the call. But it just, it's a room that you don't have a lot of depth in, but especially top-end talent-wise. Jacoby and Guillory was the one name going into the season that you could kind of
We've had the scare already whenever he got hurt in camp, and then it became a real talking point of, you can call it depth, but you have unproven depth. And now, as Brian Kelly says, the sum's greater than the parts, that becomes a real issue now.
Yeah.
Because, and like we said on Saturday night, I don't think it's not all is lost, but it's a huge hit at a position where outside of Nussmeier and Perk, that's kind of one person that it may not be show up on the depth chart or whatever is this is your best player, but it's somebody that was integral to what you were trying to do defensively.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I don't know if you can weigh as much of just the playmaking ability. I think you just needed his body.
Anchor.
You just needed you needed that right. You needed somebody on the line that you could count on and was going to be there every day. But more just being a leader, just a guy that was in the locker room, a guy that was helping the everyday of a football team that you have to have. So it's a big hit, and it's also back-to-back weeks in weeks 1 and 2 where you get hit really, brutally. Yeah, some body shots of taking some key parts away from you. Obviously, Emory was a guy that they were going to put a lot of the load on from the run game standpoint, and then Guillory. We've talked about all off season and talked about throughout the first part of the year how much he meant to the team, and to knock him out and to lose those two guys early on here in this 2024 season definitely is just some massive blows, just some big hits, right, that you still can overcome. And my concern going into the season was always the defensive line depth chart, right? That was my big area of just red flag because it's a long season. The schedule's tough. you really got to navigate, and it takes the depth. You know, I mean, it takes the ability of having guys that you can count on to really get through the year. And when you look at some of the top end teams that have played here now in the first couple of weeks, right, and you see how they're built, and now granted, some of them haven't played a lot of competition, but you know, one thing that I did see when Georgia was blowing out Tennessee Tech in the third quarter was that they got a rotation of defensive linemen and guys on the front seven that, you know, they trust and that they can play outside of their two deep. And that's what you need come mid-October, November of going through the SEC, is just the ability to be able to dig into that depth chart, and that's a major concern for LSU. I mean, that's a high-level concern for LSU of being able to get through this SEC season without a ton of real depth on that defensive line, especially when you start plucking people away that are playing the majority of the snaps. So we'll get to the game, and we will get to some of this.
College football is wild.
It is. But, I mean, you look at some of the way these top-end teams are built. I mean, think about it. Texas lost their top two backs in back-to-back days in fall camp. And, I mean, look how they're plug-and-playing.
They can run the ball.
Yeah.
That's an offensive line.
Well, I mean, I'm not – they also have a depth at running back that they haven't felt a lot of the sting early on in the season. I mean – I didn't have them performing like that on the ground against Michigan. I mean, one thing that I did respect for Michigan going into that game was their front seven, their defense, their defensive line. I mean, Texas went into Ann Arbor and beat the ever-living hell out of Michigan.
Exciting whites. Ann Arbor was thumping early.
Yeah.
They were into it, which, I mean,
Absolutely.
It's a big noon kickoff, and you had Gus on the call, and that place was raucous. Quinn Ewers is good. Texas
Really
is
good.
good. Texas is like
Very
I don't want to.
good.
I don't.
Really good.
I thought Michigan was fraudulent going into the year, but still, that game could have gotten. You could have played with your food a little bit when you're in Ann Arbor. You get some false starts, and those things happen. You get some calls that don't go your way. You score a touchdown on the first drive that gets called back. Like, that was a tough environment to go into, and then for Texas just to keep their foot on the pedal and just we're blowing by you. And that's, I would say, the biggest winner of the weekend is probably Texas.
I would think so. Quinn Ewers, as you said, I mean, another big game performance. When Quinn Ewers goes into his pre-draft camp, I think you're going to look at that Alabama game last year in Tuscaloosa.
Michigan game?
I think you're going to look at that Michigan game.
What he did in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably underperformed in that Washington game a little bit. You know, I mean, I think that he
outperformed
probably
by
could have.
Penix.
Yeah,
That's more
probably
what
a
it
better
was.
way to put it. But he has played his best in some of the biggest games that he's played in.
Noah and I were talking about this a little bit on Saturday night. Like, I don't even know if we said it on air, but if you put Nussmeier on Texas, it feels like it's the same thing, right? Do you think that there's like head and shoulders that Quinn Ewers is better than Garrett Nussmeier?
No,
because
I do not.
I think they're very comparable.
I think through the first 2 weeks of the season that Nussmeier's proven he's one of the best throwers, the best passers in the game. I mean, like, he is as natural and as confident. And, I mean, some of the throws that he makes, he knows he can make it. There's a lot of people that would say, I don't know if he would, and just pop. I mean, he's putting it on the money. Nussmeier's not the problem.
No, I'm just saying.
No,
Like, if we would
yes,
compare,
I agree
like,
with you.
national championship level
he's
teams.
in that. I think he's in that discussion. I think that definitely he's a pro quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the way that he throws the football, I mean, that guy is as natural. I was trying to think of a comparison to him. I mean, maybe Jamarcus. Jamarcus made it look so easy with the way he would just stand up tall and flick his wrist.
If Jarrett Lee wasn't broken.
He kind of reminds me of Jarrett Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays the game a little bit more relaxed than Lee does, right?
Fair to say, yeah.
Yeah, but
it's a different situation.
I think that's
for
confidence.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I think it's.
If you get Jarrett Lee in his fourth year, and that's his first start,
Yeah,
then you get. I
right.
mean, there was in 2011. There was times when Jarrett Lee was like, he's the best quarterback in the SEC.
Well, I think through the first 7 games of the season,
he was going to be all SEC.
The most efficient quarterback. Like his efficiency rating was one of the tops in the country. I mean, he was confident. He was playing like Nussmeier does. I mean, when I watch LSU play, and we'll open up the phone lines here in a little bit. And we'll get your reaction. But just my reaction to the other night was exactly what I talked about last week, and my concern on it was whether or not LSU could have a killer instinct, like could want to take your will away from you. And I think that comes from the top. And that press conference on Saturday night, I'm not going to beat it to a dead horse in the sense of like that's the storyline, but that's a little bit of a look into the mentality of the head coach. I'm trying to think, and somebody tell me, when has the last time that you've seen a head coach of a Division I, really Power 5, Power 4 program get on a press conference after a win and talk about jet lag, being tired, overworked, all of that stuff? I think people understand, right? And when you talk about it publicly, there's a sentiment that is taken of your team hears that, the public hears that couldn't have played well in the playoff room, that couldn't have played well with a lot of the leaders in the locker room, of getting up there and pretty much saying that we're tired, we're beat up, it's I don't want to overplay it, but it needs to be discussed in the sense of I'm trying to think of the last time that has happened, and when a coach, and if it did happen, a coach not getting blasted for it. Right? And I'm not talking about the media reaction. I'm just talking about the effect that can have on your team.
What you say, that's kind of sticking up for his guys?
Yeah, but you do that in the locker room. You don't have to take up for your guys publicly if you do it privately.
Well, that's also a coach that has a 10-year, $100 million contract guaranteed.
So what's that mean?
Well, he's not worried about what the media thinks, but he doesn't
care. I don't think Brian Kelly.
Care.
I don't think Brian Kelly cared what the media thought when he was at Grand Valley State making $200,000.
And I'm fine with it.
Yeah, but if that's his mentality, a lot like what we were talking about last week, before he said any of this, I asked out loud, can Brian Kelly create the killer instinct in his team? Can he coach that? I'm seriously curious. I'm asking the question because when I watch his team play, I wonder if they have it. And then I hear him speak, and I wonder if he's the guy that can even promote it. And to me, that's what they're missing. That's what they're lacking. They missed the killer instinct against USC. Mm-hmm. They couldn't have been tired, right? Tired of what? Practicing all summer, getting ready for the game? And then playing on a short week is fine, but playing against an opponent that you have to come out and get your confidence right, get your mind right, and in doing that, that's preached all week. And then when you tell me in the post game that, yeah, we were tired all week, and we were still beat up from USC, and we were still jet lagged from the last game, and we were still just not in it. The games keep happening. You know what I mean? Like, they're coming every week.
And you checked it off the box. I think they were working on a ton of stuff, whether it be offensively or defensively. They are trying to figure out how to run the football, and that's the only, aside from Jacoby and Guillory being hurt, the real concern, if you have any, would be the fact that you still can't run the football against Nicholls. And I know that they probably knew going into it, like, look, we got tape from USC. This is how they stopped it. But you came in saying, and this comes from your guy, your leader, number 7 on offense, we're going to run the football. And if you put that message out there, you better be able to do it. And I don't know if you're trying to speak it into existence, but you can't run for 56 yards against Nicholls.
Well, I mean, that
your longest rush came from a quarterback scramble.
And again, I'm not trying to get here and break down the press conference, right? I'm just listening to the message and what was said. The most concerning part about the LSU football team through the first 2 weeks is that they cannot run the ball.
They're the best pass protecting offensive line in the country. 100%. They're not the best offensive line in the country.
It's mind-blowing.
They've never had to do it.
That they can't move the ball. Like,
none of these guys
they get shoved back.
None of these guys that are on LSU's roster that are the first starting 5 have ever had to focus on running the football because you had a quarterback that could. He took that away from you. Like, you didn't have to worry about having to establish the run because he could hit you over the head at any point. Now you don't really have that same amount of ability at quarterback, and it's showing. It's as simple as that. Like, you've never had to. I mean, I watched. We talked about this. I watched Texas getting full house pistol on 3rd and 1, and guess what they did? They got a yard against Michigan in the big house when you had to have it. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew you were running it. That's what LSU's going to have to start doing, is find a way
More variety.
to create variety in what they're doing offensively with the run game. If you can't line up and go good on good, then you have to find a different way to be able to do it, because you're going to have to run the football.
Or even line up and go good on bad.
That was good on bad.
Right. I mean, that's Nicholls State. Like,
you can tell them to play.
Right. And as excited as they are to play in Tiger Stadium, or
that shit goes away in the third quarter.
It doesn't go away in the third quarter. It goes away on the first series when you get smacked in the mouth.
I don't want to be here anymore.
Like, that's when it goes away. I've heard the message inside the building during those types of game weeks, and that's the message.
Kill them.
Is, hey, let them take their pictures in pregame, but once the game is kicked off, it is LSU versus State U.
This is why you don't play here.
And this is exactly why you weren't offered.
Yep.
Like this, that's what the message has to be. And you let them hang around.
I want to see the
lights go out. You let them make a play.
Guggenheim.
I mean, get that kid an NIL deal.
He does. He's got a museum.
I mean, he does screen John Curtis.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
I mean, like, if that's not a Patriot.
Quarterback.
Yeah, he was a quarterback at John Curtis. Ran the veer. Chopped LSU.
Give it time.
Like, I mean, like an insurance salesman from here to forever. I mean, that's
not in the 225.
That's his elevator pitch.
He just heard his stock.
Let me tell you about a September weekend in Tiger Stadium.
You paint your face at the office.
It was. I mean, that's. I don't know if LSU has the killer instinct, and I don't know if Brian Kelly is the guy that can create that. I mean, a week later, that's my same message. I mean, you show off a recovery center that's $20 million, and then 2 weeks later you talk about being tired. I mean, that's a hell of a move, man. I mean, I appreciate just the ego on it.
That's what I'm saying. He don't care.
2 weeks ago, boys, we were laying in hot tubs and going into sleeping chambers.
Wilson Alexander,
remember that, Wilson? Now we're tired, man. We're
Get out of there.
We're jet lagged. We're not. We were working on Tuesday when we flew back in on 5 a.m. on Monday. It's like, well, okay, you create the schedule. You know what I mean? Like, keep them off the field for a day if you're saying that's the problem. I mean, get up there in the public and say my team is tired in week 2. Coach, that plays in the locker room. You know what I mean? Like, somebody inside's being like, maybe we are tired.
Yeah.
I think it was more of like, you're not physically tired. I think it was a mental toll of trying to get yourself back up and right for a Nicholls game after you played the biggest game on the college football schedule of the year, where it's like, of course they're not going to. Tired is one way to say it, but I don't think that's the message he was trying to. He's like, they weren't up for this game. Yeah, which is totally fair. Like, you don't go to the podium and be like, hey, we wanted. It's not going to be the same. Yeah. You understand that. And then to have the Emery injury and then the Tank Guillory injury, where it's like, the team's taking a little bit of a mental hit right now.
And I mean, I'm not going to put too much stock into that quote, depending on what we see on Saturday against South Carolina. I think if they come out,
don't you fucking dare say that when you get on.
South Carolina that thing just turned into a hot box. Right. Like, I mean, you are walking. Absolutely, no doubt. I think that's. I want to see how they respond to that.
Me too. That's what
I really do, and I'm talking more of like from the top down.
Right. I mean, you're going from Guggenheim to Rocket Sanders, who's been one of the best running backs in the.
I'm snuck up on you.
I mean,
that man drug test him. Something happened. That Michael's secret stuff. I mean, that was his Super Bowl.
The 60-yarder was nothing special.
I think they tried to do some different things defensively.
It was a missed run fit.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna happen.
I understand, but I mean, like, you got 5 of us in here. All 5 of us could have hit the hole. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like he was bouncing around and bouncing off of people.
That's what I'm saying. You didn't get out talented.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand. in the same vein, even if we're working on stuff, boys, it shouldn't be this wide open.
They can tackle.
I mean,
there was nobody to tackle.
Somebody's got to be there.
He was gone.
All right, remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Hiller Hummel Orthodontics. You can find them online at Baton Rouge, LA, orthodontist.com. Little Jay in the chair this morning getting bottom braces. Just had the top because he had the overbite. So he had to wear the top for about 6 weeks. This morning he went back in for the lower braces, which is all good. Got the confirmation of the appointment yesterday. They called last week to confirm we'd be there this morning. All good. You can check them out online at Baton Rouge, LA, orthodontist.com, and conveniently located right over there on Sherwood Common Boulevard, 4607 Sherwood Common Boulevard, right in between Airline and Coursey is where you can find them. Quality care for your smile and mind. Quality care for your smile and mind. You can schedule online, get the consultation, quick turnaround. Whether you're an adult, whether you're a teenager looking for that perfect smile, Dr. Hiller and Dr. Hummel can take care of it for you. Online at Baton Rouge, LA, orthodontist.com, Baton Rouge, LA, orthodontist.com. All right, we're going to open up the phone lines here. Get your thoughts. Lloyd's going to put that out. A lot of you inside the chat wondering what I thought about Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, that bit us right in the ass, huh?
Last week.
Didn't get up for the game. That's what I'm saying. College football is wild. LSU checked the box.
Rewind the tape. That's the stuff about this stuff. Like, you can go find it. You find what I said. I said that teams take on the personality of their coach, right? And that team had the personality of their coach where he's hyping the big games. Like he's ready to go. He's leading them out, hitting his chest. You could see on Saturday watching that game, I mean, even he was kind of like trying to drum up some energy. I mean, like it was like, I mean, come on, man. Like, we got to get into this thing. And, truth be told, I don't know if Riley Leonard, if he's the dude, man. I mean, like, he had some opportunities on Saturday to make some plays where you're like, if he can't make that throw, I don't know if you can really win. I mean, look, Notre Dame's defense is legit, and the best player on their defense is Jaden Ausberry. How the hell was he off the field on the last couple of series? I mean, like, I'm sitting there watching the game, and the announcer is, like, going crazy over Jaden Ausberry, who's the defensive back out of University High, sophomore. And I'm telling you, like, he's making every play. Like, he went on a series where he made like 4 or 5 straight plays where the guy, Jason Garrett, the old Dallas Cowboys coach, is like, guess who? Look who's back on the play. And then like the last 3 minutes of the game, I'm like, where the hell's number 4 at? I'm like texting his dad. I'm texting Verge. I'm like, did they take him off the field? And
he's tired.
I guess they did. And I mean, I'm not making excuses for Notre Dame. I'm just saying, where's the Baton Rouge kid at? Really? I mean, like, the best player on the team is from U High, and for whatever reason, he wasn't on the field at the end of the game. But look, yeah, I said what I said about Marcus Freeman, but what I said is that teams take on the personality of their coaches. And Notre Dame was ready to play because their coach was fired up. It felt like they were like following that guy into the wild. Like, let's go get this thing. And my concern for LSU is that they got jet lag because the coach is telling them they're tired. That's just my concern. I'm not saying that's the overriding deal on LSU, but this is back-to-back weeks where my number one concern about LSU is do they have the killer instinct, and is Brian Kelly the one that can teach them that? One thing is for sure, we will find out 6 days from now.
Yep.
Is that you're walking into an atmosphere, you're walking into an environment, you're walking into a spot where they are feeling themselves. They are going to be hyped to play. They'd be hyped to play you if they would have gotten blown out by Kentucky on Saturday. That's one of the SEC venues that fills up and produces every Saturday. And what is it? It's the Bright. What do they call it? The Bryce Willie? The Willie B?
Williams Bryce.
Yeah, they call it the Willie B. And I mean, like, that, it is
Sandstorm, baby.
That's their deal. But I mean, it's a home field advantage.
Right, 100%.
Yeah, that's what. And I think it's hard to, it's such a reactionary thing because if you go back 1 week, you go South Carolina beat Old Dominion by 4 points. Like, not a test. Okay, they come out and they shut the door on Kentucky, and it wasn't a pretty game. Like, I don't think that's an opponent, then that's why I think that there is credence to you should beat this team by 2 scores. And if you don't, or if you lose, shutter it. Then I'll hop on that bandwagon. But I'll continue to be positive about this team because
I'm not trying to be negative.
There's so much good to it.
I'm not trying to be negative. I'm really not. I just want to.
South Carolina's not. You're not walking into Alabama in 2011.
They should beat the hell out of this team.
Yeah, and I think that game day being there is a good thing for LSU. Ain't no tired. Didn't get up for this.
It opened at 8, right?
I
slam it.
LSU -8. Did I see that right? We have a phone number, 769-241-1031. You know the drill.
7.5.
7.5?
Mm-hmm.
What's the total?
I am pulling it up.
52.5.
Oh,